Latin from Scratch course, 8th class, adjectives. Specifically, 212 adjectives. Now we are going to see why. We are going to understand why, what is this 212 adjectives, also known as first class adjectives. Why first class? Because they are the first class of adjectives that we study. Then later, after we learn the third declension, we are going to study another class of adjectives. But for now, this is the first class of adjectives, or 212, which is much more intuitive, as we are going to see. And actually, this class doesn't include any new morphology. We don't really have to learn any more tables for this class, but we do have to be aware of the morphosyntactic new challenges. So I've just said that we don't have to learn anything new about the morphology, and you already see this table. Don't worry, because there's nothing new here. We are going to see, okay? The statement of these adjectives consists of the following: nominative singular masculine, the feminine, and the neuter. So the statement for these adjectives is not nominative and genitive, but nominative, nominative, and nominative. So for example, we would say altus, alta, altum, bonus, bona, bonum, etc. So we say the nominative for each of the three genders. And according to this, we have two groups. This, which is the most common one, which is us, a, so altus, alta, altum, or a, For example, miser, misera, miserum. We already know that altus means tall, and miser means miserable, as you might have imagined. And of course, you might have already guessed why the name of 212. Why? Because, of course, we have masculine, we have feminine, we have neuter, this is the singular, and now we have here the plural, no? And as I was saying, you might have already guessed that the masculine is declined with the second declension masculine, the neuter is the second declension neuter, and the feminine is the first declension. So, I mean, if you remember, no, for example, domina, domina, dominam, dominae, dominae, domina, dominus, domine, dominum, domini, domino, domino, no? Or bellum, 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 belli, bello, bello. No? So you see that if you already know the first and the second declension, then this is just the same. You don't actually have to learn anything new. And then, as I was saying, this is the most common type, the us, a, and then, for example, in miser, misera, miserum, you might remember this ending from puer. And we were saying that in puer, it's the same except for the nominative and vocative singular, which was puer, puer, and then puerum, pueri, puero, puero. So here is the same. Now we have miser, misera, miserum, no? So misera is the same, miserum is the same, and then here we would have miser, miser, and then already the same, miserum, miseri, misero, misero. Okay, so it's actually quite easy. No new information really. So let's continue. What we have just seen is the morphology, no new information really. Now let's go with the syntax. Now this is something new. Okay, so now you have to pay special attention. Now that we have introduced a new type of word, since up to this moment we knew, of course, verbs, we knew nouns, and now we know adjectives. And of course, the morphology of adjectives is pretty much the same as the morphology of nouns, but now we have to see the syntax. That is how it interacts with nouns, especially nouns, but in general, words in the sentence. And now we say this word, which is super important. This concept, we have to learn it by heart. Agreements, okay? Agreements between adjective and noun. You might remember these words when we said that the subject agrees with the verb and the verb agrees with the subject. So here is pretty much the same. The noun agrees with the adjective agrees with the noun or with the pronoun. So let's see how this adjective-noun agreement works. It's actually quite simple. The rule is as easy as this. Adjectives must agree in gender, masculine, feminine, neuter, number, singular, plural, and case, nominative, vocative, accusative, etc. No? With the noun they refer to. No? So, for example, we have here Dominus probus est. The master is good. No? So, because we have us, which is in Dominus Domini, us is nominative, masculine, singular, then probus has to be in masculine, nominative, singular. So, Dominus probus est. Then we have puella proba est. The girl is good. Again, nominative, feminine, singular, nominative, feminine, singular. Then, for example, Marcus videt servos improbos. Mark sees not slaves. So, servos, accusative, plural, masculine, improbos, accusative, plural, masculine. Or, puer improbe, I domum, naughty boy, go home. And now here, as I say here, no, it is very important to understand what we can see in the last example. The agreement is in gender number case, not in ending, okay? Because, for example, here, okay? Here we had us, here we have os. So here the agreement of case, number, and gender also equals agreements of ending, us, us. But here, for example, puer, improbe. Here, the endings don't match because the endings don't have to match. What has to match is the case, the gender, and the number. So, for example, puer here is vocative, singular, masculine. So what is the vocative, singular, masculine of improbus, improba, improbum? It is improbe. And it doesn't match with this ending. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it matches the gender, case, number. In this case, vocative, singular, masculine. Okay, so again, this is super important, even much more important once we study the third declension, because then it's going to be like totally different endings matching with other things. But again, what is important is that it matches, it agrees in case, number, gender. These three things, okay? Case, number, gender. You have to actually learn it. Case, number, gender. Case, number, gender. And I'm going to insist even more with these two examples, okay? So we were saying, if you remember actually in the previous lesson, we said pinus alta, okay? So remember that. Now we say Catilina est malus pravusque. Okay, so remember that Catilina, when we were studying the first declension, we said Catilina is this bad guy who is the enemy of Cicero, etc. No? So Catilina is a bad guy. He's a man. And even if his name is from the first declension, but because his name refers to a man, then it is masculine. So here we have nominative, masculine, singular. And now, what is the nominative masculine singular of malus, mala, malum? It is malus. And then of pravus, prawa, pravum is also us. So Catilina est malus pravusque. And now the opposite example. Remember that we were saying that this word is one of these exceptions of the second declension being feminine. Okay, so this is nominative feminine singular. So what is the nominative feminine singular of white? Candidus, candida, candidum is candida. Okay, so albus irundinis candida est, which means the belly of the swallow is white. Okay, so this is just to insist on this idea that it is not important that the endings match, because many times they will actually match, but they don't have to match. What has to match is nominative masculine singular with nominative masculine singular, nominative feminine singular, nominative feminine singular. Here, accusative, plural, masculine, accusative, plural, masculine, etc., etc. Okay, I don't want to insist anymore because otherwise it is too much. Okay, so with this, we finish this lesson. We finish the theory of this second module. Now we go to the main page of this second module and we practice analyzing and translating sentences and texts.